The distress signal came at 3 in the morning, ship time. Kang Tae-ho was sleeping in his small room when the alarm pulled him from his dreams. He dressed quickly, grabbed his medical bag, and ran to the main deck. Captain Park Yuna stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the large screen. The signal was weak and broken, but it was real. Someone was dying out there in the dark of space. "It's coming from the contested zone," said Lieutenant Baek Do-hyun. He stood beside the captain, his arms crossed. "Could be a trap. Could be survivors," Yuna replied. Her voice was calm but firm. "We respond to all distress signals. That's who we are." Do-hyun shook his head but said nothing more. He was a good soldier, loyal to his crew, but he had fought the Selvari for 5 years. He had watched friends die. Trust did not come easy to him anymore. The ship changed course. Tae-ho felt the slight shift beneath his feet as the horizon's edge turned toward the signal. He checked his bag again. Bandages. Medicine. Tools for surgery. He hoped he would not need them, but hope was a weak thing in war. It took 2 hours to reach the source of the signal. What they found made everyone on the bridge go silent. A Selvari shuttle floated in the emptiness, broken and burning. Its hull was torn open like something had ripped through it from the inside. Debris drifted around it, spinning slowly in the void, and among the debris, Tae-ho saw bodies. Selvari bodies. Their silver blood had frozen into crystals that caught the light of distant stars. "What happened here?" Yuna whispered. Do-hyun's face was hard. "Selvari killed Selvari. Look at the damage pattern. This wasn't an attack from outside. Someone on that ship turned on the others." Tae-ho felt his stomach turn. He had seen death many times. He had held soldiers as they took their last breath. But there was something different about this. Something personal and cruel. "I'm reading one life sign," said the officer at the scanner station. "Very weak. They don't have long." Yuna turned to Tae-ho. "Take a team. Get whoever is still alive." Tae-ho nodded and gathered 3 soldiers. They put on their spacesuits and entered the airlock. Minutes later, they were floating across the gap between ships, moving through the field of frozen blood and shattered metal. The inside of the Selvari shuttle was worse than the outside. The walls were marked with burns from energy weapons. Bodies lay everywhere, their faces frozen in expressions of shock and fear. These were not soldiers. Tae-ho saw fine clothing, delicate jewelry. This was a ship for important people. "Over here," one of his soldiers called. Tae-ho moved through the wreckage until he found her. She lay against the far wall. Her body curled around a wound in her torso. Her skin was pale gray, almost white, and her carapace shimmered like moonlight even in the dim emergency lighting. She wore a crown of twisted silver metal, and her robes were soaked with her own blood. Tae-ho had never seen a Selvari royal before, but he knew one when he saw one. This was no ordinary passenger. This was someone of great importance. He knelt beside her and opened his medical bag. The wound was deep. A blade had gone through her side, just below her ribs. It was not a random strike. Someone had wanted her to die slowly. "She's losing too much blood," Tae-ho said. "I need to stabilize her now." He reached for her, ready to apply pressure to the wound. Her eyes opened. They were large and silver, like 2 moons rising over a dark horizon. For a moment, they were unfocused, lost in pain. Then they found his face, and something cold and ancient filled them. "You must not touch me, human." Her voice was weak, but it carried the weight of absolute command. Even dying, she spoke like a queen, giving orders to a servant. Tae-ho looked at her. He saw the hatred in her eyes. He saw the disgust. To her, he was less than an animal. He was filth that had dared to come close to her sacred body. He thought about his sister. She had been 19 when the Selvari killed her. She had been a nurse on a medical ship, unarmed and helping the wounded. The Selvari had destroyed that ship without warning. They had called it a military target. His sister's body was never found. He could let this queen die. No one would blame him. She was the enemy. Her people had taken everything from him, but Taeho was not a killer. He was a healer. That was who he chose to be, even when it hurt. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "but I'm going to save your life whether you want me to or not." He pressed his hands against her wound. She tried to pull away, but she was too weak. Her silver blood flowed over his fingers, warm and strange. "You dare," she hissed. "You filthy creature. You dare to put your hands on me." "Yes," Taeho said simply. "I dare." He worked quickly, stopping the bleeding, injecting medicine into her veins. She cursed him in her own language, words he did not understand but could feel the venom in. She called him things that were probably terrible. He did not care. When she finally lost consciousness, Taeho lifted her in his arms. She was lighter than he expected. Beneath all that royal pride, she was just flesh and bone, fragile and breakable like anyone else. "Are you sure about this?" one of his soldiers asked. "She's silvery, high-ranking. By the look of her, command might want us to leave her." Taeho looked down at the queen's face. In sleep, she looked almost peaceful, almost young. "She's a patient," he said. "That's all that matters." He carried her back to the horizon's edge. Captain Yuna was waiting at the airlock, her eyes widening when she saw what Taeho held in his arms. "Is that who I think it is?" she asked. "I don't know who she is," Taeho admitted. "But she was stabbed by her own people. Someone wanted her dead." Yuna was silent for a long moment. Then she stepped aside and let him pass. "Take her to the medical bay. Keep her alive." "And Taeho?" He paused and looked back. "Whatever happens next," Yuna said, "this is going to change everything." Taeho nodded and carried the alien queen into the heart of the human ship. Behind him, the wreckage of the shuttle continued to drift, a tomb of secrets waiting to be discovered. He did not know it yet. But the captain was right. Everything was about to change. For him, for the queen, for the entire galaxy. And it all started with a single act of stubborn, impossible kindness. Queen Velith woke to the smell of something strange. It was clean but foreign, like chemicals mixed with recycled air. She opened her eyes and saw a white ceiling above her. Soft lights hummed quietly. Machines beeped somewhere nearby. This was not her ship. This was not her palace. The memories came back slowly, each one more painful than the last. Orath, her most trusted advisor. The man who had served her family for 60 years. He had smiled at her before pushing the blade into her side. He had told her that the Selvari needed a stronger ruler, someone willing to destroy the humans completely, someone who was not weak like her. She remembered the screams of her guards as Orath's soldiers killed them. She remembered crawling through the blood of her servants, reaching for the emergency signal. She remembered the cold of space creeping in as her ship died around her. And she remembered the human. His strange, flat face, his soft skin, his hands on her body, touching her without permission. Velith sat up quickly, and pain exploded through her torso. She gasped and fell back against the bed. Her wound had been bandaged with human materials. Human medicine flowed through her veins. She felt sick at the thought. The door opened, and the human walked in. He was not tall. He was not impressive. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes and messy black hair. He carried a tray of tools and bottles. When he saw that she was awake, he stopped. "You shouldn't move," he said. His voice was calm and quiet. "The wound is still healing. Do not speak to me," Velith hissed. "Do not look at me. You have already violated me by touching my body. Do not make it worse." The human did not seem angry at her words. He simply nodded and walked to the side of her bed. He began checking the machines connected to her, reading numbers she did not understand. "My name is Kang Tae-ho," he said. "I'm the medical officer on this ship. You're safe here." "Safe?" Velith laughed. But it hurt too much. "I am on a human ship. I am surrounded by enemies. How am I safe?" "Because we're not going to hurt you." He looked at her directly. His eyes were brown and warm, like wood from the old forests of her homeworld. "We found you dying. We saved you. That's what humans do. Humans kill, Velith said. Humans destroy. Your kind burned 3 of my colonies. You murdered thousands of my people. Your people destroyed our medical ships, Teho replied. There was no anger in his voice. Only sadness. They killed my sister. She was a nurse. She never held a weapon in her life. Velith stared at him. She waited for the rage, the hatred. Any Selvari who had lost family would demand blood in return. It was their way. It was the only way. But the human just looked at her with those tired, sad eyes. I could have let you die, he said. No one would have blamed me. But I didn't. Because hating you won't bring her back. And you didn't kill her. He finished his work and picked up his tray. Captain Yuna wants to speak with you when you're strong enough. We need to understand what happened to your ship. Someone wanted you dead, and we want to know why. He left without waiting for her response. The door closed behind him, and Velith was alone with her thoughts. She stayed in the medical bay for 3 more days. During that time, she watched the humans carefully. She expected cruelty. She expected to be treated like a prisoner, chained and guarded. Instead, they brought her food that they had tried to make suitable for Selvari bodies. They gave her clean clothes. They let her rest. Teho visited twice a day to check her wound. He never touched her more than necessary. He never spoke unless she asked him something. He was patient in a way that confused her. On the 4th day, she was strong enough to walk. 2 guards escorted her to the captain's room. They kept their weapons ready, but did not point them at her. Captain Park Yuna sat behind a simple desk. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back tightly. She did not stand when Velith entered. She did not bow. She simply gestured to a chair. Sit, please. We have much to discuss. Velith remained standing. I will not sit in the presence of a human. Yuna raised an eyebrow. You're on a human ship, eating human food, wearing human clothes, alive because of human medicine. I think you can manage to sit in a human chair. Velith felt her face grow hot with shame and anger. But she sat. Yuna pressed a button, and a screen on the wall lit up. It showed recordings from Selvari news channels. Velith watched in horror as she saw her own face, marked with the symbol of the dead. According to your empire, Yuna said, you were assassinated by human terrorists 4 days ago. High Commander Orath has declared a period of mourning. He's also declared himself temporary ruler until a new queen can be chosen. Lies, Velith whispered. All lies. Orath stabbed me himself. He killed my guards. He killed everyone on my ship. We know. Yuna showed her another recording. This one from the wreckage of Velith's shuttle. It showed the bodies, the damage, the blade still stuck in the wall. The evidence is clear. This was a Selvari attack on Selvari. Not human. Velith's hands shook. Her empire believed she was dead. Her people mourned her while her murderer sat on her throne. And no one knew the truth. Orath is using your death to push for total war, Yuna continued. He's calling for the complete destruction of humanity. No peace. No surrender. Just extinction. That is not our way, Velith said. We fight. Yes. But we are not monsters. We do not seek to destroy entire species. Orath does. Yuna leaned forward. So here's your choice. Queen Velith. We can take you back to your space. Drop you off somewhere your people will find you. But Orath has soldiers everywhere now. He'll know you're alive within hours, and he'll finish what he started. Velith felt cold. She had no allies left. No guards. No power. Or, she asked, or you stay with us. We work together. We find a way to expose Orath and stop this war before it kills millions on both sides. You would help me? Velith could not hide her surprise. Why? I am your enemy. Yuna smiled, but it was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a soldier who had seen too much. Because I'm tired of war, Your Majesty. I'm tired of sending young people to die. I'm tired of writing letters to families. If there's a chance to end this, I'll take it, even if it means helping someone who thinks I'm an animal." Velith was silent for a long moment. She thought about Orith. She thought about her people, being led into a war of extinction by a traitor. She thought about the human medic who had saved her life. Even though she had done nothing but insult him, she had never been given a choice before. As queen, her path had always been decided by tradition and duty. But now, for the first time, she could choose her own fate. "I will stay," she said finally. "I will work with you. But understand this, Captain. When Orith is dead, and my throne is restored, I will remember how you treated me. For good, or for bad." Yuna nodded. "That's all I ask." She stood and offered her hand. Velith stared at it. Touching a human willingly was forbidden among her kind. It was shameful, disgusting, but she thought of Teho's hands pressing against her wound, keeping her alive. Maybe shame was a small price to pay for survival. She took the captain's hand and shook it. The alliance was formed. The impossible had begun. 2 weeks passed on the horizon's edge. Velith's wound healed slowly, but her pride healed even slower. Every day, she walked the halls of the human ship, watching these strange creatures go about their lives. Every day, she found something new that confused her. The humans were loud. They laughed at jokes she did not understand. They argued over small things like food and music. They touched each other constantly, putting hands on shoulders, hugging after long shifts, even crying in front of others without shame. Among the Selvari, such behavior was considered primitive. Emotion was weakness. Control was strength. A true Selvari showed nothing on their face, felt nothing in their heart. That was how empires were built. That was how wars were won. But these humans won wars too. They had fought the Selvari for 10 years and had not been destroyed. Their ships were smaller, their weapons weaker, their bodies fragile. Yet they survived. They pushed back. They refused to die. Velith did not understand how. She spent most of her time in the medical bay, where Teho worked. It was the quietest place on the ship, and he did not try to make conversation unless she wanted it. She appreciated that. Today, she sat on a chair in the corner, watching him treat a young soldier who had hurt his arm during training. The soldier was barely an adult, with a round face and nervous eyes. He winced when Teho touched his injured arm. "It's not broken," Teho said. "Just a bad sprain. I'll wrap it and you'll be fine in a week." "A week?" The soldier looked disappointed. "But we have combat drills tomorrow. I can't miss them." "You can and you will." Teho's voice was gentle but firm. "Your body needs time to heal. Push too hard, and you'll make it worse." The soldier sighed but nodded. As Teho wrapped the bandage, they talked about ordinary things. The soldier's family back on Earth. A game he liked to play with his friends. A girl he wanted to ask to dinner when the war was over. Velith listened with growing confusion. This soldier was going to fight. He might die. Yet he talked about dinner and games as if tomorrow was promised to him. As if hope was something he could hold in his hands. When the soldier left, Teho noticed her watching. "Something wrong?" he asked. "That boy," she said slowly. "He could die in the next battle. Yet he speaks of the future like it belongs to him." Teho cleaned his tools and put them away. "That's how humans cope. We hope. We dream. We make plans for tomorrow even when tomorrow might not come. That is foolish." "Maybe." He sat down across from her. "But what's the alternative? Live in fear? Give up before the fight even starts? We tried that. It doesn't work. Hope keeps us going. It keeps us human." Velith thought about her own people. Selvari soldiers did not hope. They accepted. They obeyed. They died with silence and dignity, never showing fear or desire. She had always thought this made them strong. Now she wondered if it just made them empty. "Tell me about your sister," she said suddenly. Teho's hands stopped moving. For a moment, she thought she had gone too far. Among the Selvari, speaking of the dead was forbidden. It stirred emotions that should stay buried, but Tae-ho just took a slow breath and leaned back in his chair. Her name was Tae-young, he said. She was 3 years younger than me. She wanted to be a doctor since she was a child. She used to practice on her toys, wrapping bandages around stuffed animals, and telling them they would be okay. He smiled, but it was a sad smile. When the war started, she joined the medical corps. She said someone had to put people back together while the rest of us were tearing each other apart. She was assigned to the ship Mercy's Light. They only carried wounded soldiers. No weapons. No fighters, just doctors and nurses. His voice grew quieter. The Selvari fleet destroyed it during the Battle of Horizon 4. They said it was a military target. They said medical ships could carry hidden weapons, but Tae-young and her crew were just trying to save lives. Both human and Selvari. They didn't care whose blood was on their hands, as long as they could help. Velith felt something strange in her chest. It was tight and uncomfortable. She did not know its name. I did not know, she said. About the medical ships. The military reports said they were legitimate targets. They weren't. Tae-ho looked at her. 300 people died on the Mercy's Light. Doctors. Nurses. Patients who couldn't fight back. My sister was 22 years old. Velith wanted to look away, but she forced herself to meet his eyes. She saw pain there, deep and old. But she also saw something else. Something that looked like forgiveness. How can you stand to be near me? She asked. My people killed her. My empire gave the order. You should hate me. I did hate. Tae-ho admitted. For a long time after she died, I hated everything. I hated the Selvari. I hated the war. I hated myself for not being there to protect her. But hate is heavy. It gets tired after a while. He leaned forward. You didn't give that order. You didn't fire those weapons. You're not responsible for every terrible thing your people have done, just like I'm not responsible for every terrible thing humans have done. We're just two people trying to survive. Velith did not know how to respond. In her world, guilt was inherited. The sins of the empire were the sins of every citizen. If her people killed, then she was a killer. That was the law. But Tae-ho did not see her as a killer. He saw her as a patient. As a person. Maybe even as something like an equal. You are strange, she said finally. All of you humans are strange. Tae-ho laughed. It was a warm sound. Unexpected and genuine. We get that a lot. Over the next few days, Velith found herself seeking out Tae-ho's company. She told herself it was because he was quiet and did not bother her with questions. But the truth was more complicated than that. She watched him work. She watched him comfort the frightened, heal the wounded, hold the hands of those who were dying. He never turned anyone away. He never showed disgust or judgment. He treated every person like they mattered. One night, she found him alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. His face was tired, his shoulders heavy with invisible weight. You carry too much, she said, standing beside him. He glanced at her. So do you. They stood in silence, watching the universe drift past the window. Somewhere out there, Orath was planning his war of extinction. Somewhere out there, millions of lives hung in the balance. But here, in this small, quiet moment, there was peace. My people believe humans are animals, Velith said softly. They believe you have no souls. No honor. No worth. And what do you believe? She thought for a long moment. I believe I was wrong, she said. I believe everything I was taught was a lie. Tae-ho turned to face her. In the starlight, his eyes were gentle and kind. Then maybe, he said, there's hope for both our peoples after all. Velith did not answer. But for the first time since her betrayal, she felt something she had not felt in years. She felt like maybe tomorrow was worth fighting for. The war room of the Horizon's edge was small and crowded. Screens covered every wall, showing maps of space, fleet positions, and endless streams of data. Captain Yuna sat at the head of the table, her face grim. Around her stood her senior officers, including Lieutenant Baek Do-hyun, whose eyes never left Velith. Do-hyun did not trust her. He had made that clear from the first day. Every time she entered a room, his hand moved to his weapon. Every time she spoke, he watched her like she might attack at any moment. Velith understood. She had seen his file. He had lost his entire squad to a Selvari ambush 3 years ago. He had been the only survivor, carrying wounds that still ached when the weather changed. He had every reason to hate her. But today was not about trust. Today was about survival. Oreth's fleet is gathering, Yuna said, pointing at the main screen. Intelligence suggests he's planning a massive strike against Earth's outer colonies. If he succeeds, millions will die. And he'll use the victory to demand more power. He's not just gathering ships, Velith said. She had been given permission to speak at these meetings, though some officers still looked uncomfortable when she did. He's gathering loyalty. Many Selvari believe the lies he's told. They think humans killed their queen. They want revenge. Can you blame them? Do-hyun muttered. If someone killed our leader, we'd want blood too. But their leader isn't dead. Yuna looked at Velith. You're right here. The question is, how do we use that? How do we use that? Velith had been thinking about this for days. She had played every possibility in her mind, searching for a path that did not end in destruction. The answer had come to her slowly, like light creeping through a crack in a wall. We show them the truth, she said. My people are not stupid. They follow Oreth because they believe his story. If we can prove he's lying, if we can show them I'm alive and he's the one who tried to kill me, his support will collapse. And how do we do that? Do-hyun asked. Walk up to the Selvari fleet and say hello? No. Velith stood and walked to the screen. She pointed at a cluster of stations near the center of Selvari space. This is the communication hub. Every major broadcast in the Empire goes through here. If we can reach it, I can send a message to every ship, every colony, every home in Selvari territory. Yuna studied the map. That's deep in enemy space. The hub is heavily guarded. Getting there would be almost impossible. Almost, Velith agreed. But not completely. She pulled up another screen, showing detailed schematics of Selvari defenses. Routes through asteroid fields, patrol schedules, codes that could disable alarm systems. I am offering you everything, she said. Fleet positions, weapon codes, Oreth's personal schedule. Everything I know as Queen, I give to you now. Ard, the room went silent. Even Do-hyun looked surprised. Why? Yuna asked quietly. You owe us nothing. We're your enemies. Velith turned to face the captain. She thought about the past weeks. The food they had given her. The medicine. Taeho's gentle hands on her wounds. The way they had treated her like a person instead of a prisoner. Because one of you already trusted me, she said. When I was dying in the wreckage of my ship, when I told him not to touch me, he saved me anyway. He didn't ask for anything in return. He didn't demand information or loyalty. He just helped, because it was right. She looked toward the back of the room, where Taeho stood quietly. He met her eyes but said nothing. I have been a queen for 30 years, Velith continued. In all that time, no one has ever shown me kindness without wanting something back. Your medic was the first. I will not waste that gift. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at her officers. One by one. Some nodded. Others looked uncertain. Do-hyun's face was hard and unreadable. It's a risk, Yuna said finally. A huge risk. If this fails, we lose our ship and our crew, and we might start a war that kills everyone. The war is already coming, Velith said. Oreth will not stop until humanity is destroyed. This is not a question of if you fight. It is a question of how you fight. You can wait for him to come to you, or you can strike first and take away his greatest weapon, which is the lie. Velith's voice was firm. Right now, the Selvari people believe they are avenging their murdered queen. Take that belief away, and they have nothing to fight for. Orath becomes a traitor, not a hero. His fleet falls apart from the inside. Du Hyun finally spoke. And what happens to you? If we do this, if we succeed, you go back to being queen. You become powerful again. How do we know you won't turn on us the moment you have your throne? It was a fair question. Velith had expected it. You don't know, she admitted. I could give you promises and oaths, but words are cheap. All I can offer is what I have already given. Information that could destroy my own empire if used wrongly. I have placed my people's fate in your hands. That is more trust than any Selvari queen has ever shown to anyone. She looked at Taeho again. I was taught that humans were animals. That you had no honor, no soul, no worth. I believed it for my entire life. But I was wrong. You have shown me more honor in these weeks than Orath showed in 60 years. Whatever happens next, I will not forget that. The room was silent. Yuna looked at her officers. Then she looked at Taeho. Medical Officer Kang, she said. You've spent the most time with her. What's your opinion? Taeho stepped forward. His face was calm, but his eyes were thoughtful. She could have let herself die rather than accept our help, he said. She could have refused to speak, refused to share anything. But she didn't. She's been honest with us, even when it was hard, even when it hurt. He paused. I'm not saying we should trust her completely, but I think we should give her a chance. If we don't, we're no better than the people who taught her to hate us. Yuna nodded slowly. Then she turned back to the map. All right, she said. We do this. We take the communication hub. We show the galaxy the truth. She looked at Velith. But understand this, Your Majesty. If you betray us, if this is a trap, I will personally make sure you don't survive it. Velith met her gaze without flinching. If I betray you, she said, I will deserve whatever comes. They spent the next 3 days planning. Every detail had to be perfect. The route through enemy space, the timing of the attack, the message Velith would broadcast to her people. Taeho found her one night in the observation deck, staring at the stars again. She looked tired. The weight of what was coming pressed down on her shoulders. Are you ready? He asked. No, she admitted. I have never been less ready for anything in my life. Then you're just like the rest of us. She turned to look at him. In the starlight, his face was soft and kind. You defended me, she said. In the meeting. You spoke for me when you had no reason to. I told the truth. That's all. Among my people, truth is a weapon. It's only used when it helps you. She shook her head. You use it even when it costs you. Taeho smiled. That's what makes it worth something. Velith felt that strange tightness in her chest again. She was beginning to understand what it was. Thank you, she said quietly. For everything. Don't thank me yet. He turned to look at the stars. We still have a war to win. But as they stood together in the darkness, watching the universe spin around them, both of them felt something they had not felt in a long time. They felt like maybe, just maybe, they might actually win. The horizon's edge slipped through the darkness like a knife through water. Around it, the asteroid field provided cover, hiding the small human ship from the eyes of the Selvari patrols. Captain Yuna stood on the bridge, her hands steady on the command console. Every member of her crew was at their station, silent and focused. They all knew what was coming. They all knew the risks. Approaching the communication hub, the navigation officer reported. 3 minutes to broadcast range. Enemy patrol detected, another officer added. 2 destroyers, bearing south. They haven't seen us yet. Hold course, Yuna ordered. Keep us in the shadow of that large asteroid. We only need a few minutes. Velith stood beside her, dressed in her royal robes for the first time since her rescue. The silver crown sat on her head, cleaned and polished. She needed to look like a queen for the broadcast. Her people needed to see that she was alive and unbroken, but inside, she was terrified. Everything depended on the next few minutes. If the broadcast failed, if Orath's people blocked the signal, If no one believed her, then everything was lost. The war would continue. Millions would die. And her sacrifice would mean nothing. Your Majesty. Teho appeared at her side. He was wearing combat armor over his medical uniform, a weapon at his hip. How are you feeling? Like I'm about to jump off a cliff without knowing if I can fly. He smiled slightly. That's how all the best moments start. The ship shuddered as it passed through a field of debris. On the main screen, the communication hub grew larger. It was a massive structure, a web of towers and dishes that spread across an artificial moon. Lights blinked across its surface like stars captured and tamed. 1 minute to broadcast range, the navigation officer said. Enemy patrol is turning. They might have seen something. All hands to battle stations, Yuna commanded. Shields up, weapons ready. The ship came alive with motion. Soldiers ran to their positions. Alarms flashed but made no sound. Everyone moved with quiet purpose. 30 seconds. Velith closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She thought about her people. She thought about all the lives that hung in the balance. She thought about Teho and his sister. She thought about the young soldier who talked about dinner and games. She opened her eyes. I'm ready. The ship reached broadcast range. The communication officer's hands flew across her console. Connection established. Channel open. Broadcasting now. Velith stepped in front of the camera. The red light blinked on, and suddenly her face was being sent to every corner of Selvari space. People of the Empire, she began. Her voice was strong and clear. I am Queen Velith. Your queen. The queen you were told was murdered by humans. She paused, letting the words sink in. I was not killed by humans. I was betrayed by one of our own. High Commander Oreth stabbed me and left me to die. He killed my guards, my servants, everyone who knew the truth. He lied to you. He used my death to start a war that serves only his ambition. The screen beside her showed the evidence. Recordings from her destroyed shuttle. Communications between Orath and his conspirators. Proof that could not be denied. The humans did not murder me. They saved me. When I was dying in the wreckage of my ship, a human medic carried me to safety. He healed my wounds. He asked for nothing in return. He showed me more honor than the man who claimed to serve my throne. Alarm bells started ringing. Enemy ships approaching, someone shouted. 3 destroyers on intercept course. Keep broadcasting, Yuna ordered. Give her as much time as possible. The horizon's edge rocked as the first enemy shots hit its shields. Sparks flew from damaged systems. Crew members held on to whatever they could, but Velith kept talking. I call upon all loyal Selvari to reject Orath's lies. Do not fight a war built on murder and betrayal. Do not die for a man who would kill his own queen. The humans are not our enemies today. Orath is. Another explosion shook the ship. The lights flickered. Somewhere, metal screamed as it twisted. I am coming home, Velith said. And when I arrive, Orath will face justice for his crimes. Stand with me, and we can end this war. Stand with me, and we can build something better. Stand with me. And together, we will survive. The broadcast ended. The red light went dark. Signal sent to all major channels. The communication officer reported. They've received it. Everyone's received it. After 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 received it. Enemy ships in weapons range, another officer shouted. Brace for impact. The next few minutes were chaos. The horizon's edge fought desperately against the Selvari destroyers, dodging and weaving through the asteroid field. Yuna commanded with cold precision, finding every gap, exploiting every weakness. But they were outgunned. One human ship against 3 Selvari destroyers was not a fair fight. Damage reports flooded the bridge. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Weapons systems failing. Shields down to 30%. We need to retreat, Du-hyun shouted from his station. If we stay here, we die. Just a little longer, Yuna replied. We need to make sure the message spread. A massive explosion tore through the ship. Velith was thrown from her feet, slamming against the wall. Her vision blurred. Her ears rang with a high, painful sound. Through the smoke and fire, she saw one of the silvery ships breaking apart. But another was closing in, its main cannon charging for a final shot. And then she heard the report. Loyalist ships emerging from the asteroid field. Selvari loyalists. They're attacking Orath's destroyers. Velith pushed herself up and looked at the screen. It was true. Dozens of Selvari ships were appearing from nowhere, their weapons firing on the destroyers that had attacked the horizon's edge. They were her people. They had heard her message. They had believed. "This is Commander Sira, of the Third Fleet." A voice crackled over the communication system. "We stand with the Queen. Orath's ships will be destroyed." Tears filled Velith's eyes. She had not cried since she was a child. She had been taught that tears were weakness. But now, watching her people turn against the traitor, she could not stop them from falling. The battle was over quickly after that. Orath's destroyers were outnumbered and outmatched. Within minutes, 2 were destroyed, and the 3rd surrendered. But the victory came with a cost. Velith found Do-hyun in the medical bay, lying on a bed with burns across half his body. During the battle, a console had exploded near where she was standing. He had thrown himself between her and the blast. "Why?" she asked, standing over him. "You hate me. You've hated me since the moment I came aboard." Do-hyun coughed and tried to smile. His face was pale with pain. "Taeho would never forgive me if I let you die," he said. "Besides, we need you alive to finish this. Personal feelings don't matter when the mission matters." Velith stared at him. This man, who had every reason to let her burn, had sacrificed himself to save her. "You are insane," she whispered. "All of you humans are insane." Do-hyun laughed, though it clearly hurt. "We get that a lot." Taeho appeared beside her, already working on Do-hyun's wounds. "He'll live," Taeho said quietly. "He's too stubborn to die." Velith watched them for a long moment. The medic and the soldier. 2 humans who had given everything to help her. An alien queen who had done nothing but insult and doubt them. She understood now. This was why humans won wars. Not because they were strong, not because they were smart, but because they believed in each other. They fought for each other. They died for each other. And that kind of faith could move stars. "Thank you," she said to Do-hyun. "I will not forget this." "Just win," he replied. "That's all the thanks I need." Velith nodded. She straightened her crown and walked out of the medical bay. The war was not over yet. Orath was still out there, gathering what remained of his forces. But now she had something she had never had before. She had allies, she had hope, and she had a people ready to follow her home. It was time to take back her throne. The fleet that gathered around the horizon's edge was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Human ships flew beside Selvari cruisers. Soldiers who had been enemies days ago now planned attacks together. It was impossible. It was beautiful, but Velith had no time to admire it. Orath had retreated to his flagship, the Eternal Flame, surrounded by the last of his loyal forces. He knew the truth was spreading. He knew his power was crumbling, and that made him more dangerous than ever. "He's cornered," Captain Yuna said in the war room. "Cornered animals fight the hardest." "Orath is no animal," Velith replied. "He's a calculator. He's already thinking 3 steps ahead. If he can't win, he'll make sure everyone loses." "What do you mean?" Velith pulled up a schematic of the Eternal Flame. "This ship carries weapons capable of destroying entire planets. Orath helped design them. If he realizes he cannot escape, he might use them on the Selvari homeworld itself." The room went cold. "He would destroy his own people?" Do-hyun asked. He was present via screen, still recovering in the medical bay, but refusing to miss the planning. "He would destroy anything to avoid losing," Velith said. "His ego cannot accept defeat. If he cannot rule, he will make sure there is nothing left to rule. Then we need to stop him before he can give that order." Yuna said. We need to take his ship. A full assault would take too long. The Eternal Flame has the strongest shields in the fleet. By the time we break through, he could have launched the weapons. So what do we do? Velith took a deep breath. We go in through the back door. She showed them a hidden entrance at the rear of the ship. A maintenance passage that only the royal family knew about. It had been built centuries ago. A secret escape route for queens in times of crisis. I can get a small team inside, she said. We reach the bridge. We stop Oreth before he can do anything. That's a suicide mission, Du-hyun said. Maybe. But it's the only option that gives us a chance. Yuna was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll lead the team myself, she said. No. Velith shook her head. Your place is here. Commanding the fleet. I need to do this. Orath betrayed me. This is my responsibility. You can't go alone. She won't. Taeho stepped forward. I'm going with her. Velith turned to look at him. You're a medic. This is a combat mission. You might get hurt. You might need medical attention. He smiled slightly. Besides, I've come this far. I'm not stopping now. Yuna looked between them. Something passed across her face. Understanding, perhaps, or acceptance. All right, she said. Velith, Taeho, and a team of 6 soldiers. You go in through the passage, reach the bridge, and stop Oreth. The fleet will keep his forces busy outside. And if we fail? Velith asked. Then we all die together. Yuna's voice was hard but not unkind. But we won't fail. Not today. The shuttle carrying Velith's team approached the Eternal Flame under cover of the battle. Outside, the space was filled with fire and light as ships clashed and died. But inside the small craft, everything was quiet. Taeho sat beside Velith, checking his weapon for the 10th time. He was nervous. She could see it in his hands, in the way his eyes kept moving. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. Yes, I do. Why? He looked at her. In the dim light of the shuttle, his face was soft and serious. Because some things are worth fighting for. Even if they're scary. Even if they might kill you. He paused. My sister believed that. She went to war to save lives, knowing she might lose her own. I never understood it before. But I do now. Velith felt that tightness in her chest again. She knew what it was now. She had tried to ignore it, tried to push it away, but it was too strong. When this is over, she said, I would like to know more about your sister. About your family. About you. Taeho smiled. I'd like that too. The shuttle docked with the Eternal Flame. The team moved quickly through the maintenance passage, following Velith's lead. The corridors were dark and narrow, filled with the hum of machinery and the smell of old metal. They encountered resistance twice. Guards loyal to Orath who had been stationed to watch the secret entrance. The soldiers dealt with them quickly and quietly. No alarms were raised. Finally, they reached the bridge. It was a massive room, filled with screens and consoles, and the cold light of distant stars. At the center stood Orath, his back to the entrance, watching the battle through the main window. I wondered how long it would take you to find your way here, he said without turning. The Queen's Passage. I always suspected it existed. Then why didn't you guard it better? Velith asked, stepping forward. Her weapon was aimed at his back. Orath turned slowly. He was old. Older than Velith remembered. His carapace was dull and cracked. His eyes sunken. But his smile was the same. Cold. Calculating. Empty. Because I wanted you to come, he said. I wanted to see you one last time before the end. It's over, Orath. Your fleet is broken. Your supporters are turning against you. Surrender now, and I'll give you a trial. Orath laughed. It was an ugly sound, like metal scraping against stone. A trial? You think I care about trials? I've served this empire for 80 years. I've watched it grow weak and soft under your family's rule. The Selvari, were once conquerors. Now we negotiate. We compromise. We treat humans like equals. He spat the last word like poison. I tried to make us strong again. I tried to give us a purpose. But you, with your soft heart and weak mind, you ruined everything. You murdered innocent people, Velith said. You killed my guards, my servants, people who trusted you. Necessary sacrifices. Orath waved his hand dismissively. Great empires are built on blood. You were always too weak to understand that. He looked past her, at Teho standing behind. And now you bring animals onto my ship. A human. On the bridge of a Selvari flagship. His face twisted with disgust. You've truly fallen. My queen, that human saved my life, Velith said. He showed me more honor than you ever did. Adder forthwith was Wergening Lime. Orath moved suddenly. He was faster than his age suggested. A blade appeared in his hand, and he lunged toward Velith with deadly precision. But Teho was faster. He threw himself in front of Velith, catching Orath's arm and deflecting the blade. The two struggled for a moment before Velith brought her weapon up and fired. The shot took Orath in the shoulder. He stumbled back, dropping his blade, clutching the wound. It's over, Velith said again. Orath fell to his knees. Blood dripped from his wound, silver and bright against the dark floor. You think this changes anything? He gasped. You think peace with humans is possible? They're animals. They'll turn on you eventually. They always do. Velith walked toward him slowly. She picked up his fallen blade and looked at it. The same type of blade he had used to stab her. You taught me humans were monsters, she said. You were wrong. They showed me kindness when I was their enemy. Mercy when I deserved none. They gave me a chance when they had every reason to let me die. She raised the blade. You never gave anyone a chance. Not me. Not my people. Not anyone who stood in your way. Orath looked up at her. For the first time, she saw fear in his eyes. Do it then, he said. Prove you're no better than me. Velith hesitated. The blade trembled in her hand. Teho's voice came from behind her, soft and steady. You don't have to kill him. He can face justice. The proper way. Velith looked at the blade. She looked at Orath. She looked at the human who had followed her into the heart of enemy territory, asking for nothing but the chance to help. Then she lowered the blade. No, she said. I won't be like you. You'll face trial. You'll face the judgment of our people. And they will decide your fate. Orath's face twisted with rage and hatred, but he was too weak to resist as the soldiers bound his hands and took him away. The war was over. The throne was reclaimed, and Velith had won without becoming the monster she once believed she had to be. 6 months had passed since the fall of Orath. 6 months of change, healing, and slow, careful hope. Velith stood on the balcony of her palace, looking out at the city below. The streets were filled with people going about their lives. Markets sold goods from 100 worlds. Children played in fountains that had been dry for years. Music drifted from open windows. Peace. True peace. She had never known how beautiful it could be. The negotiations with Earth had taken 3 months. Every detail had been argued over. Every word examined and re-examined. There were still those on both sides who wanted war, who could not let go of their hatred, but they were fewer now, and growing fewer every day. The final treaty had been signed 1 week ago. Trade agreements, shared borders, a promise to settle disputes with words instead of weapons. It was not perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was a beginning. Velith had kept her promise. Everyone who fought beside her was honored. The Horizon's Edge received the highest medal a human ship could receive. Captain Yuna was invited to the palace and treated as a guest of honor. Lieutenant Do-hyun, still carrying scars from the battle, stood beside her as a symbol of sacrifice and courage. And Teho, Velith had not seen him since the day after Orath's capture. He had returned to Earth with the rest of the human crew. She had wanted to ask him to stay. She had wanted to say so many things, but there had been too much to do. Too many demands on her time. Now, standing on her balcony in the quiet of evening, she finally admitted the truth to herself. She missed him. She missed his gentle voice, his tired eyes, the way he smiled when she said something that surprised him. She missed the feeling of being near someone who expected nothing from her but honesty. A servant approached and bowed low. "Your Majesty. The human delegation has arrived. They are waiting in the reception hall." Quote. Velith felt her heart beat faster. The human delegation. She had known they were coming. Earth had sent its best doctors and scientists to work with Selvari medical experts. A symbol of cooperation, a bridge between worlds. She had hoped he would be among them. She had been afraid to ask. "I will greet them shortly," she said. "But first, I wish to walk in the garden." The garden behind the palace was ancient. It had been planted by the first queen of the Selvari, thousands of years ago. Trees with silver leaves grew beside pools of crystal-clear water. Flowers that glowed softly in the darkness filled the air with sweet fragrance. It was the most sacred ground in the empire. Only the royal family was allowed to walk there. Any outsider who set foot on its soil would be killed. That had been the law for longer than anyone could remember. Velith walked slowly along the winding paths, her fingers brushing against the soft petals of the glowing flowers. She thought about all the laws she had grown up with, the rules that told her what to believe, who to hate, how to live. So many of them had been wrong. She heard footsteps behind her. Human footsteps. Soft and uncertain. "You're not supposed to be here," she said without turning. "I know." Teho's voice was quiet. "The guards tried to stop me. I told them I was lost. I don't think they believed me. They'll kill you if they find you here. Then maybe you should tell them to let me go." Velith finally turned to face him. He stood at the edge of the path, wearing a simple uniform instead of armor. His hair was longer than she remembered. His face looked more rested, less haunted by old wounds. He was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. "Why are you here?" she asked. "I was assigned to the medical delegation. Earth wants me to help build a new hospital in the capital. Cooperation and understanding. That sort of thing." He paused. "Also, I wanted to see you. You could have asked for an audience, through proper channels. I could have. But I spent 6 months waiting. Going through proper channels. Doing everything the right way." He took a step closer. "I'm tired of doing things the right way. I just wanted to find you. To talk. To see if maybe you felt the same." Velith's heart was pounding now. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. A human in the sacred garden. A queen speaking to an outsider without her court present. A Selvari letting herself feel things that should never be felt. But she was tired of being wrong about what was right. "You should not be here," she said softly. "This ground is sacred. No outsider has ever walked it." Teho nodded. "I can leave, if you want me to." She looked at him for a long moment. She thought about all the walls she had built around her heart. All the rules she had obeyed without question. All the loneliness she had accepted as the price of being queen. Then she reached out and caught his wrist. His skin was warm against her fingers. Soft. Human. Real. "I did not say I wanted you to." Teho looked down at her hand. Then he looked up at her face. His eyes were full of wonder and something else. Something tender and hopeful. "Are you sure?" he asked. "No." She smiled. It felt strange on her face. She had not smiled in so long. "I'm not sure of anything anymore. But I know that when I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe. Like the weight of my crown doesn't crush me. Like maybe I'm not just a queen. Maybe I'm a person too." Teho stepped closer. He raised his other hand and gently touched her face. His fingers traced the edge of her carapace, the curve of her cheek. "You were always a person," he said. "You were just taught to forget." Velith felt tears forming in her eyes. She had cried more in the past 6 months than in her entire life before. But these were not tears of pain. They were tears of something she had no name for, something bigger than sorrow, bigger than joy. "My advisors will disapprove," she said. My people will question my judgment. There will be scandal, and gossip, and political problems. Probably. It will be difficult. Every day will bring new challenges. I know. But I don't care. She stepped into his arms. It felt like coming home. I have spent my whole life doing what was expected. What was proper. What was safe. And it made me miserable. She looked up at him. I would rather be happy and uncertain than safe and alone. Taeho held her close. His arms were steady and strong. His heart beat against her chest, steady and sure. I'm not going anywhere, he said. Whatever comes, we face it together. They stood there in the sacred garden as the stars came out overhead. Two people from different worlds, different histories, different everything. Together. The universe was vast and cold and full of dangers. Wars might come again. Peace might fail. Nothing was certain, but in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was the warmth of human hands, the courage of human hearts, the stubborn, impossible, beautiful hope that made humans who they were. Velith had been taught that humans were animals, savages, unworthy of respect. She had learned that everything she knew was wrong, and she had never been more grateful to be wrong in her entire life. Together, they walked deeper into the garden, leaving the old laws and old hatreds behind. The story was not over. It was just beginning. But for now, in this quiet moment, it was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.